Each week on AI for Humans, we use GPT-4o to bring AIs to life.
It could add a layer of unexpected excitement. Whoop, whoop.
They're fun.
Whoa, Gavin, chill out, man.
Hilarious, and often seriously unhinged.
Ooh, get real, old bros.
We're going to show you step by step how to imagine a character and then bring it to life. Let's talk about what exactly is an AI co-host and why we drag them onto our podcast every week.
You call this AI for humans, but I think humans deserve better.
These are real-time interactive characters that we wanted to create to be part of our podcast to show people what was possible with AI. And when we say real-time, Kevin and I are going to show you a little bit in this video about how we make these things happen. We're not pre-scripting these. We are creating a character and then having a real-time conversation with them.
And there are 1,000 different ways to accomplish the things that we do. Some of the tools that we're going to highlight today do require subscriptions. A lot of them have free trials if you just want to mess around, dip your toes into the water without giving up a credit card. But we encourage you to try free stuff, and we'll try to shout out some alternatives as we go.
And if you know of other tools, please let us know. We always want to hear in the comments. Tell us about what you use to do things like this. And that is a good reminder, Kevin, like and subscribe to this video.
Do it right now, because by the end of this, you may not want to. So this is the perfect time to hit the button before you really understand what you're getting yourself into.
There's kind of 3 parts to creating an AI co-host. There's the prompt, which is like making the idea and then making sure that it works for the back and forth that we want to use. There's the interaction part, which is how we record live interactive back and forth with that AI co-host. And then there's the look and the animation part, which we kind of consider our post-production process. Kevin, should we jump into the prompt section first?
Yeah, let's make a co-host. In fact, let's make one for our show this week.
To be honest, I don't feel so great right now.
First of all, Kevin and I try to figure out ahead of time what our idea is for this particular co-host. Basically, we want to come up with a character, and the character that we decided, whether or not this is good or bad, we'll see, is we wanted to create an Apple fanboy who's somebody super excited about WWDC. So Kevin, when we first start this process, I want to show everybody, so this is my ChatGPT 4o. I have already in my ChatGPT 4o saved a prompt that allows me to kind of create this character.
And again, to contextualize for folks out there, our prompts serve a very specific purpose for our show. We want characters to act a certain way, to give answers that are a particular length, to not use emojis or asides. And so we hard code a lot of that into our prompts each and every week. Whatever your purpose is, your prompt should clearly define the outputs that you want from the AI. That can be, I want you to be sarcastic, be poetic or verbose, or rhyme everything. Whatever your use case is, that's what you want to bake in.
The current prompt is, I've got a character for you to play, which means right away that GPT knows you're going to be doing an interaction. Please follow the below prompt and interpret it as you go and have fun with it. Remember, this is a live interaction where you are not to use stage directions or emojis in your responses, and please keep all responses to 150 words or less. Just say ready when you are ready to interact. And then it goes through basically kind of a Mad Libs version of what it will create for us once we give it the information. So Kevin, I'm gonna now give it the information. So what should we say, Kevin? Let's say he's a
consummate Apple fanboy.
Super snarky. Let's say super snarky.
Has a Genius bar in his basement, probably.
Yeah, that's good.
Thinks the epitome of high fashion is a black turtleneck and blue jeans.
That's good. Definitely is jerky and
like hyper caffeinated. You mean when you say
like? I mean jerky more like being a jerk, but we could say like
got it. Not like jerky. He's leathered meat. He's not dehydrated.
No, exactly. Beef. But I like hyper caffeinated. He's hyper caffeinated.
Yeah. Whenever you're dealing with an AI, the more examples you can give it, the better the output usually will be. So if we want him to be snarky on a particular topic, or if we want him to have an interesting vocal affectation, like ums or ahs, stuttering, something that's performative, it helps to build that into the prompt. So as Gavin is saying, hey, here's your personality, here's how you act or react to things, we usually like to throw in a for example, and then we give a response that it might give, or a favorite catchphrase that it might have.
What should we say, Kev? Let's give him a catchphrase. His catchphrase is... Jobs would never do that, like something to that extent, or Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs would never do that. So I'm going to now see what ChatGPT does with this. So I just basically used my character prompt, and I'm going to then ask it to add it to the personality. So what it's doing now is it basically very quickly took we have to give it a name too, by the way, but it's doing a good job of this, and it's making the exact prompt based on the prompt that we had already kind of created. What should we call this character, Kevin? Do we think, or should we let GPT-4 pull
We can let the AI
own?
name it.
Okay.
Yeah. The last name should be Macintosh, but I'm not going to put
Mac
my thumb on the
Mac
scale.
Maverick is his name. Mac as in Mac Maverick. So okay, I have this. We have this now. and
Did
I'm
Mac
gonna
Maverick legally change his name, or was he
What do you
born
mean?
this way?
Oh, I think he was born this way, and that's what made him into this person, Kevin. When
Makes
your
sense,
name is
okay.
Mac Maverick, his parents were probably like Steve Jobs fanboys in the early days, and
they
now
were. Yeah.
he's been born as Mac Maverick. So I'm gonna grab
Much like
this
the
whole-
Apple II, I bet he was conceived in a dingy garage.
That's exactly
Silicon
right.
Valley
That's
as well.
exactly right. Now, before we move to the next step, which is the interaction step, you like to do a little bit of back and forth on your end to see what sort of interactions you're getting out of it before we turn it into video and audio.
You know, normally when we jam on a prompt, I would take it here and then go, okay, how can we infuse something extra there? Because I want you to be surprised by it. I want it usually to go a little bit further than we're both comfortable with, and then we can pull it back. So immediately I would go, okay, this catchphrase, Steve would never do that. I love that. What else could we put in there? I would like, and one more thing.
Oh, that's good.
You.
Yeah.
You know, like I would just, what's that? Sometimes our characters get a little explicit. For those who don't know, we created Monster Milk, which is a beverage that makes AIs essentially go insane.
Oh, sweet pickles and jam. Whoop, whoop. The monster milk is bubbling in my veins like a cauldron of frothy frogs.
Our very first AI co-host was an unhinged, uncensored AI named Gash. What personality trait do you want to give it?
Can he be like obsessed with horses?
I'm really passionate about horses. Oh, and I love saying too. Horses are awesome.
What we're trying to do here is maximize for entertainment value. Obviously, we're trying to show people how this works, but we also want it to be a fun thing to watch and listen to.
So I said that like an impactful Apple keynote. He has that and one more thing. Those moments are usually filled with explicit language and taunts those who use competing brands. You know, the scariest thing about doing a tutorial like this and recording it all is that people can see just how terrible I am at typing.
Me
That's
too.
the scariest thing.
Yes,
You
you're
can
right,
see
exactly
all
right, yes.
like, I don't care about you knowing the pipeline and the workflow. I hope you take it and use it. Just don't shade the typing right now.
We talked about free opportunities. There's an incredible tool called Pinocchio Computer, which will allow you to do all sorts of stuff free. And specifically, what we're doing here with GPT-4o can be done with Llama 3 in a pretty good way. We've used Llama 3 a couple times in our show, but that's an opportunity to use a free open source model to do a very similar thing and get pretty good results. They may not be as good as GPT-4o, but you're going to get pretty good results and honestly be able to get very funny answers out as well.
You can also go to Hugging Face and for free create an account there and you can chat using various models. Okay, I have our prompt, Gavin. I've submitted to the ChatGPT gods. It has responded with ready, which is how you know it understood the prompt. That's what you told it to. And usually what I do to test things out is I say, you've been invited on the AI for Humans podcast. That way the model now knows, okay, I'm on a podcast. This is the name of the show. And I've prompted, say hello to Gavin and Kevin. They're the hosts, and introduce yourself. And what we're looking for here is a clear understanding that it is the character that it says it is, that it's doing something interesting or unique because of its backstory, and that the prompt itself is returning something that is 150 words or less, because again, for our podcast, we want nice, quick, snappy responses. We don't want walls of text that we're trying to edit in real time. Gavin, we have all this text. We can massage it, and we will, but our co-hosts talk. So now might be an important time to explain exactly how we make that happen.
So let's move on to section 2, which is our interaction section, where this is us bringing what we're getting out of the LLM to life. And by bringing it to life, we're not actually bringing it to life. We are not Dr. Frankenstein. We are not like shooting it with lightning bolts and assuming that it's a real person. We are basically making an audio version of the answers that we're getting out of ChatGPT. Now, is there a way to do this in real time? Yes. And in fact, maybe in a future demo that we do in this channel, we'll show everybody some things that we've built or friends of ours have built that allow you to interact in an AI in real time. For this purpose, what we literally do is we take the output from GPT-4o and then we put it through a voice in 11 Labs.
So sometimes we record our own voice and we put it into 11 Labs to get an interesting or performative something out of it. But 11 Labs has a huge voice library where you can go and you can pick from computer-generated voices or professionally submitted voiceovers. But for right now, let's just go over to their voice library and search for something. So you can see along the top, there's narrative and story, there's conversational, there's characters and animation. Gavin, are we assuming that because of the name that Mac Maverick is a male sounding voice?
Probably. And I my thought is when I was creating this character is that he is probably a he, and he's probably, I would say, in his 20s, right? So I'm not thinking of this as an old person. I'm thinking, especially if it's somebody that was born from the compilation around the Apple II, maybe it's somebody who's in his early 30s.
It's funny. I selected male, middle-aged, English speaker. I will then click through and you can see high quality, professional, or voice design. Voice design are the software-based voices. Professional and high quality are usually something that are submitted by humans that are doing very lengthy reads with good quality. Some of the high quality voices, you'll see little icons on the different voices. Like the M here says live moderation, which means if you want your voice to say certain words, especially the naughtier ones, those moderated voices are not going to do it. They're going to filter that out. And then other voices have like a 2x icon next to it. And that means as you pay for these plans, you get a certain amount of voices that you can generate, a certain amount of characters that you can bring to life. 2x means that that voice is a premium voice, and it's going to require twice the amount of characters in the generation.
Which is often better quality. You get better responses back with those. Let's be clear, like oftentimes.
So a sample here, David, epic movie trailer. Probably not going to be our Mac voice, but here's a sample.
In a world where AI voices sound like robots, one man makes it sound epic.
Okay.
Pretty good,
epic
David.
Indeed, but
not what we want. I kind of think we want a little bit nerdier sounding guy, right? Like we kind of feel like if we're looking for this character, we want it to feel a little bit like maybe whiny, a little bit.
In the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity. Whatever happens, take responsibility.
Oh, okay. That might be it. What's that name?
Pretty nerdy. That was Edgar.
Okay. Edgar's pretty good. There's another tweak that we're going to show you all once we push this through, which is going to make Edgar a little weirder that we often do.
So first I'm adding the voice to my voice library, and I gave it a name so I can instantly recognize it. Mac Maverick, Apple Fanboy. And I'm going to go to my voice library and I'm going to hit use. And this is where things start getting interesting and pretty fun. So there are different vocal models that 11 Labs has. And usually any service that you use will have multiple models as well. Some generate the speech really, really fast, but it's less performative. Others might take longer to generate a voice, but you can get more out of it. This particular model by default uses something called multilingual V2, Gavin. And you can see on the screen here, there are several models. There's 11 Turbo, which again is their fast model. There's English V1. This one out of the box wants to work with multilingual V2. And when I select that, you'll see 3 different sliders here down below and a toggle. Stability is as it sounds. It determines how stable the voice is and the sort of randomness that will apply between each generation of the voice. If you lower this slider, and I'll do it right now, you can see that as I go down, eventually a warning will pop up on the screen that under 30% may lead to instability. Well, if you're doing an unhinged Apple fanboy character, Gavin, I would argue that instability might be a good thing.
That's a good thing.
You might want the voice to break. You might want it to sometimes devolve into gibberish or to stutter or to take breaths, even though it's software. Right. The similarity will dictate how closely the AI sticks to the original voice when it wants to replicate it. Style exaggeration is an interesting one. So with newer models, you get this style exaggeration bar. It is as it sounds. How exaggerated will the performance be? And you'll see that as I slide it up, again, just like with stability, if I go past 50% here, you get a warning. So I typically will bring this around 15, 20%, depending upon the voice.
All right, Kev, should we ask our AI co-host character that we've created here to introduce themselves and just see how it sounds, like to get a kind of sense of what we're going to be getting and see if we need to tweak it at all?
So I have that initial response. I'm pasting it in right now and I'm hitting generate. And in a few seconds, we should hear Mac Maverick coming to life.
Hello, Gavin. Kevin. Mac Maverick here, gracing you with my presence. I assume you're both using subpar hardware, but don't worry, I won't hold it against you.
Cool.
Much. I'm the guy who has a genius bar in his basement and swears by black turtlenecks and jeans. Anything else is just an affront to good taste. Now, before you ask, yes, I do think Steve Jobs was a visionary. And no, I don't think any of these so-called innovations from other companies hold a candle to what Apple has done.
Okay.
Oh, of course.
But I'll humour you for now. Let's get this started. And one more thing. If you think for a second that anything Microsoft can do is impressive, you might as well shove that new Surface up your
One thing that's fascinating about this is it was very literal about what we asked it, right?
So literal.
Yeah. So now it looks like we may have to tweak the prompt slightly so that it doesn't literally say back what we said to it. Because part of this, as we've said, is really about surprising us. We're not trying to pre-write these interactions.
I'm saying, one, you shouldn't spit back everything about your character explicitly, basically telling it to be more creative and reveal information about yourself. Two, come up with your own catchphrases inspired by the samples given.
What I always like to do is make sure that it dislikes us, that it's giving us a lot of shade, because I think that often makes the AI co-host a lot more entertaining. Your infusion of personality may be different. Maybe you want to create a co-host or somebody you play with that's super positive, or somebody that like has a specific type of motivation for some other reason. For us, because we're doing this as entertainment and as a way to show people what this could be, we like to make the AIs hate on us.
I'm adding to the prompt that when he gets angry, and that's often, he should stumble over his words or repeat pieces of them because he's getting so emotional. So I'm going to have him try that intro one more time with the stability and the exaggeration at wild things and just see what happens.
Hello, Gavin, Kevin. Mac Maverick here. I see you two, man, too. With your misguided love for Microsoft, it's almost endearing, really. Almost. I live and breathe Apple. My basement is a Genius Bar. Ever heard of it? Probably not, since you're too busy with your... Hunter Sexel, some may case must send descendte, potentially I mean itens tinskinnisten, disinferior kedgested
Okay, so we've broken
it. But let's get to it. And one more thing. If you think any non-Apple product impresses me, you might as well take that Microsoft nonsense and, well, you know where to put it. Let's do this then.
So we broke it that time. You take something like that and you start playing with these sliders, and you can see how far you can push it, just like how far you can push somebody you work with, right? You might break somebody by asking them the same question 1,000 times. And if you're doing this sort of thing and you really want an exaggerated personality, maybe there's a world where you try to do this again and again, and then you finally get something right. But even if there's a piece of gibberish, you could either leave it in, like we often do, or you can take it out. And this is the way that you can really creatively play with what comes out of these models.
There are entire subreddits and YouTube videos dedicated to how you can prompt into 11 Labs to get certain performances out of the characters. Gavin and I have our style. We like using ellipses. It breaks the character a lot and messes it up. For us, that's really fun. But again, that might not be your use case. And in fact, you might not be using 11 Labs. I want to shout out that there are free text-to-speech options that you can run on your machine, like Parler text-to-speech or OpenVoice. They're two great free pieces of software that have their own style of prompting that you can really get into. This happens to be our approach, and the brokenness is something that makes us giggle every week, so we're okay with it, but you might not be.
Kevin, let's assume that we're happy with this, and what I want to do is show people how to do the visuals. That's kind of step 3. So after we've recorded these interviews, what happens is Kevin and I will cut down the podcast, and Kevin will specifically take the audio. Then I spend time looking at what we can do from a visual standpoint. So I use MidJourney. If you're familiar with MidJourney, it's one of the probably the most popular now image generation software service. There's also ways to do this within DALL-E 3 with ChatGPT Plus, or open source. You can do all sorts of stable diffusion, different pathways, Leonardo, all these different ways to create a character. So I'm on the MidJourney homepage here, and I'm going to create a character for this exact image that we're going to use. Now, I have in the past used different variations. As you see my MidJourney account, which has all these different faces on it and different people. There's Ilya Sutskever for one of our thumbnails before. But I want to use this character that I just reran a prompt on. So the prompt I have here, this is a former podcast guest that we had on. And in this one, it was a man in his 40s, a grizzled scientist in a lab coat. His hair is crazy and unkempt, and he wears oversized headphones that seem to engulf his head, blah, blah, blah. And then it has, if you look at this with MidJourney, it tells you what camera. It says utilizes a Nikon Z7 II camera with a 58 millimeter lens. All of that stuff is stuff I found in somebody else's prompt and kind of iterated on and used in this just to give me the look that I want. Now, Kevin, this is a man in his what? We said early 30s, maybe?
Yeah, we said early 30s. He loves the Steve Jobsian fashion, so he loves a black turtleneck.
And maybe he has those little round glasses that Steve had.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's got to have either big Beats by Dre on,
Yeah.
The AirPod Maxes.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like,
so instead of wearing maybe instead of oversized headphones this time, he's wearing AirPod Maxes. Okay, let's see.
Yeah, or big AirPod Pros, like big white earbuds popping out of his ear.
And he stares directly into camera with a slight smirk. So this is what we're trying to do, is create a visual here that will allow us to have somebody that looks like they're interacting with somebody in real time. Oh, one thing I didn't do, damn it. I didn't add the 16:9. So oftentimes I'll add 16:9 to this, but these are pretty good here.
I love that he has his AirPod Pros hardwired. That makes me so happy.
There's one,
just one
that's
of them.
hardwired.
And maybe that's a developer exclusive, because of course he would have something like that he got off eBay.
So I'm just going to do one quick tweak here, which is I'm going to remix this image and add the --AR 16:9, because what I need is a 16:9 image, not a square image.
That's AR is aspect ratio.
That's right. So as that creates, I'm going to show everybody what we use to do the animation, which is a program called DID. So DID is basically a program that allows you to take an image, upload an audio file, and here we have the results of our Arnold Schwarzenegger video. So all I did with this is I took a picture of Arnold that I uploaded, and then I created the video using the audio that I exported from the show. Oh, no. So this is a good example of how something sometimes screws up. When I remix that picture, instead of actually taking that image and repurposing it as a 16:9 image, it essentially, I'll send this to you, it just stretched the guy. So now we have like a fat version of that guy. So what instead I'm going to do is I'm going to recreate this entire thing.
You don't want to ship that? I think that's great.
You want to ship that? Okay, fine. Let's ship. Let's try it.
From 11 Labs, I exported one of the responses, the last response from Macintosh, and sent it to Gavin, so he'll drop it into DID. And what DID will do is look for the eyes, nose, mouth, ears, etc. It tries to define the head of whatever image you've uploaded or whatever AI you've generated. And it will then take a look at the wave file for the audio, and it will animate the mouth and even some subtle head movement, so it gives some life to the character. Now, there are multiple services that will do exactly this. A lot of them paid, like a DID or even HeyGen. Synthesia is another one. However, there are a bunch of free ways that you can make this happen as well. There's an app called Sad Talker, and there's another app called Face Fusion. They both have options where you can give it an AI face or even a real human face, and you can give it an audio file, and it will make the mouth and the head move accordingly. Those programs have hour-long tutorials if you want to get really, really in-depth with it. Each and every week, Gavin and I just want this stuff to work and work well enough, which is why we have the workflow that we have.
So now I'm on DID. The image, the stretched out image did upload, which means we're going to be able to use it. I'm going to upload the audio that Kevin sent me. And so once the audio is uploaded, it's going to basically have this little generate video button that comes on it. I'm going to click on that generate video button. This is going to cost me 4 credits. So I pay for DID monthly. This is a 4-credit video, and the credits are based on how long you're actually asking to make the video for. We're going to generate it, and it will take a few seconds to create. This is not perfect. As Kevin and I have said in the show many times before, we don't believe this is looking realistic. Will these get better over time? Yes. And every 3 months or so, there's another piece of research data that comes out that shows that the next generation of these is going to be remarkable. So it's done. The video's done. We're now going to watch this video and see how it turned out.
All right, so the AI for Humans podcast. What a charming little show. It's like a daycare for tech enthusiasts who haven't seen the light. You two are like tech toddlers stumbling around in the dark. But hey, everyone needs a hobby, right? And one more thing. If you think your beloved Windows toys are revolutionary, you're just kidding yourselves. Apple already perfected it. Everything else is just noise.
What's so funny? You
just
enjoying
it's
it?
So dumb. It's the stretched face with the AirPod dangling out of the ear and the cord going to it. Like, there's a lot to hate about that generation, which is why I love it.
What we then would do is, after this, take each of those individual videos, drop them into our timeline for our show, and replace the audio with that section, right? When you edit something, maybe when you see Kevin or I react to a line, it often adds to a slightly different version of how you would interpret that line as you were just watching the thing say it. So it's always important to kind of keep editing in mind when you're doing this as well too. Really smart, snappy editing can help all of this every single time.
And there are workflows that will let you interact in real time with AI-powered visual avatars as well. We have a piece of software that we use when we give speeches or demos sometimes, and that allows us to chat with characters powered by a Unity engine. But this is the workflow that we use week in and week out. It takes us minutes to generate something quickly, to iterate on it using just a prompt, to get a fun performative voice out, whether it's ours or a software-generated one or one from an 11 Labs library. And then for our edited version of the show on the podcast, we can bring these characters to life. Really simple, really easy. And again, you can do it for free. You can explore your own pipelines, but this is what we use.
Let us know if you like this, if you want to hear us do more of these sort of things. Kevin and I are trying to do more YouTube videos that are specifically made to walk through these processes that we use, because it isn't a secret. Everybody should be able to learn how to use these tools, and it will just level you up going forward. So thank you so much for watching this.
Have fun creating your own nightmares, friends.
Exactly.